Alright, I'm going to do some bake a loaf of bread today. For the first time in like a couple of months, I've actually got some bread flour. Finally came through in a delivery from the supermarket, which is good. I've got a blender today as well. First time I've ever owned a blender like that. Did that show up? And go right. Never owned a blender before. I've always just had the stick blender and the Magimix, and that's been fine, but I've been making some soups, so it's only 15 quid. Anyway, not going to use that. So bread, this is just strong bread flour, and we're just going to use 500 grams. It's just a basic recipe to make a bloomer, just a big white bloomer. I think the sachets actually say on them, or on the box, it says you can use up to 750 grams of flour for one 7-gram sachet, but I'm just going to use 500 grams of flour. The bags of flour are 1.5 kilos, so you get 3 out of it rather than 2. And if I make a 750 gram loaf, it's far too big. When living on my own, it's too big. 500 is just right. We've got 500 grams. And I've got the KitchenAid. I've got the KitchenAid mixer, yeah. But I'm not going to use it. I can use it with the dough hook. That dough hook's not very good. It tends to clump around it. You can buy a spiral one that's better, but that's like 50 quid. I just haven't got there yet. I'm just going to use the bowl from it because it's got a lid. Now, it is 8:39 at night, 20 to 9 at night, which is not really the ideal time to start making bread, because if you leave this to prove and then reshape it and then let it second prove, it's going to be the middle of the night. So what I'll do is I'll show you a wee technique to deal with that, just to show that it is possible to make bread at this time of the evening. Because once the world gets back to normal, we're still in lockdown at the moment and all this nonsense, once things get back to normal, you know, just to show that it is possible to make bread at this time of the evening. So the amount of salt is quite important. You've got to get that right. Without salt it's just no good. So I tend to always use the same teaspoon. It just works nicely. Don't know what the quantity is, but I kind of take about 1 level teaspoon and then a wee bit more, 1 1/4. You can I've put them at separate places there, the flour and the yeast, just so they don't kind of kill each other. It's just the salt doesn't kill the yeast. You can put sugar into that as well, it helps with the crust. I'm not going to bother this time. I've just bought a load of chocolate today, so I'm just going to cut down on the sugar a wee bit. You want to add some kind of an oil, so you can add melted butter, you can add beef dripping or lard or something like that. That's really good. I'm just going to use some extra virgin olive oil and the water. So I want about 300 mils of room temperature water. So what I tend to do is, that's really hot, I'll just put a wee bit of that in, not caring about the quantity at the moment. You just want to go above your 300. So that's about, so just put a bit hot in, add the cold until it's about the right temperature, and then measure it and then just pour out what you don't need. That's actually about, so that's right on 300 mils. So flour, salt, yeast, optional sugar, not going to bother with sugar. Is that all it is? I'm going to put quite a lot of olive oil in, because it really helps with the crust and it gives a good flavour. It's almost like fried bread. So it's a fair amount of olive oil. Yeah, don't be shy with it, because obviously your what do you call it? Your focaccia? No, the one with the olive oil and your fingers in it. That focaccia is very, very nice. So I'll put almost all that water in, and just 2 fingers. I'm going to do this all by hand, so that you can use the mixer, but so I've been baking bread for years, and I've been making lots and lots and lots of bricks that have just been rubbish. And then I watched an episode, and I can smell that olive oil there, there's so much. I watched an episode of the Fabulous Baker Brothers. I think maybe like episode 1 of their first series, and one of the first things they did was a white bloomer, and that really helped sort my kneading technique out, and since then I've just been making very nice loaves. I'm confident this is going to work. I don't think I've ever botched one up since watching that episode. It's kind of just sorted my technique right out. So that's kind of about right. And then we can just add that last bit of water to deal with that. In the bowl. Okay, so I don't know what I was doing, I just wasn't kneading it correctly before, but a couple of things. What he said, what the guy said was, and this works nicely, is you want to stretch it, and you see him doing this, you see him really stretching it out. And that's what you want to do, you want to stretch it. I wasn't doing that, I wasn't stretching it enough. So that's my kind of technique, is you stretch it and then bring it back in itself, fold it in and then stretch it. So I'm going to do this now. You listen to Jamie Oliver and a whole bunch of other people, and they'll say knead it for 10 minutes or something like that. That just doesn't work for me, that. The Baker Brothers guy was saying knead it, and then once you think you're finished, just go a wee bit more, and then give it another 5-10 minutes of kneading. Just keep going, the more the better, kind of thing. So I'm going to knead this for about 40 minutes, which sounds a bit ludicrous, but it works. Now I'm doing this at 8:45, so it's 8:45 just now. So I'm going to knead this till 9:15, 9:20, 9:25ish, you know. Just like this, just going to keep doing this, stretching it, folding it, and I'm doing this at this time of night. Now what you'd ideally want to do is knead it for the 40 minutes, put it back into the bowl, let it rise for an hour and a half, 2 hours, until it doubles in size, and then knock it back and let it prove again, and then bake it. But by doing it at this time of night, I can't really do that, otherwise it's going to be the middle of the night. So what I'm going to do is, once I finish kneading it, put it into the bowl, put the lid on it, I'm going to put it in the fridge, and you just retard the proving process. And some people will tell you that the slower you prove the bread, the better the texture and the better. So I don't really notice much difference, but it's just practical for doing it at this time of the night. And the thing is that it kind of doesn't actually matter about the temperature of the room. This is going to rise no matter what. It's just going to rise quicker when it's warm, and slower when you put it in the fridge. So tomorrow morning it will still be full. This bowl will be full right to the brim, which you'll see. I'm quite confident of that. So when it comes to kneading, I'm not going to record the whole thing because it's just going to be a bit boring. So that's kind of one technique there. So stretch it right out like that. So really stretch your arm all the way out as far as you can. Bring it back in, twist it, do the same again. A couple other wee things that you can do. Quite like to do that. So you fold it in on itself. So you stretched it to that length, folded it, and it kind of takes the pressure because your wrist gets a bit tired. So it's quite a good way to spread your wear between your wrists. Another wee technique. What I also quite like to do, and you can kind of use your sides of your hands, roll it out into a sausage like that, and then fold it, put your weight into it, stretch that so it's doubled in length then, and then it's kind of, if you do it like that, that's 4 times the original stretched, so it's kind of like exponential length, because that's kind of like 8, it's doubled up in itself each time. And that's quite good. That's quite a good technique because it's all about stretching it and working it, and you kind of give your wrists a wee bit of a rest, and you can kind of get to the point where you can, it's quite stretchy already, you can get that to be quite long. So you've got that, and then that, and you can do it with your left hand as well. I'm not quite as good with my left hand, but just to have a wee break. That's basically it. So I'm going to do this now for good 30 to 40 minutes. Don't want to skimp on that. So that is 850, and I'll come back at the end and you can see us. Alright, so we're coming on to 40 minutes ish, 35-40 minutes. And just been doing those same kind of techniques, just stretching it. You can see it's got a lot stretchier now. And really stretching it right out. And also as part of when you pull it, when you push it away from you, use your other hand to pull it towards you as well, so you kind of double, and then bring it all in like that. And then roll it and stretch it, and then pull it with this hand as well, and then do that. Just keep doing that. So good tricep workout. If you're doing this one here, if you're kind of pushing it apart like that to create a sausage, it works the rear delts and the side delts as well. So I'm sweating a bit now actually as well. So in terms of your home workout while in lockdown, this is a pretty good one. And you get a loaf of bread at the end. Now, Jamie Oliver and others will be saying you create a nice shiny ball that's nice and springy. I mean, that's springing back just because it's sticking to my fingers. I don't create that. I describe this more as a piece of chewing gum. It doesn't really, it's not shiny, it's nothing, it's just a bit of chewing gum really. But bear with me, because it'll be good. So, actually there's some kind of hard bits in here, I don't want to, because that's been sitting for 40 minutes, so scrape those wee hard bits out, I don't want them. Should have put the lid on that. So I'm going to put that into the bowl. Now put the lid on it, so you can see how much that is. It's sort of just a wee bit at the bottom. So if this was late morning, afternoon, I would just leave this out, and in about, it doesn't really matter for the first proving, but you want it to, basically it's going to pretty much fill this bowl, is what you want. Kind of doesn't matter how long it takes, you want it to fill right up, double in size at least. If it's cold it'll take longer, but it will get there. But it kind of doesn't matter about the time, it's just the volume. If it was just during the late morning or afternoon, I would just leave this out, and in a couple of hours that'll be full, and that's it. But because this is 9 o'clock at night, I'm going to pop this into the fridge, and tomorrow morning we'll come back and have a look at it. But that is that's stage 1 done. Alright, so it's the next morning, and I've just taken this out the fridge, and you can see how much it's inflated, how much it's puffed up. So it's slowed down, so it does rise in the fridge, just slower. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this out. You can see how much it's all the stretching this of the dough, how much it's risen. It's all full of oxygen. Don't want to waste any of it. So I'm not very good at shaping it, but you just want to you want to knock the air out of it, but not, you don't want to go mental. So you can make it into a just make it into a ball and just put that onto a tray, and that's it. But I've got my I've got a tin, or a silicon tin. I do have a metal one. It's quite hard to get the bread out of the metal tin. This is dead easy, it just pops out. So I'm going to just kind of roughly make it into a, it's not very good on the bottom, but it doesn't matter. Just roughly get it into a rough kind of shape to fit into the tin. A bit of flour on it. That's it. So if this had all been done on the same day, the dough would be nice and warm at this point, and it would probably rise now over the course of the next hour or two. But this dough is icy, it's fridge cold, so it's going to take a bit longer to rise. So all I'm going to do is cover it. I've got these shower caps, so that's another Baker Brothers technique that's pretty good. I'm not a fan of cling film because you just use it once, whereas this, these you can wipe these out and you can use them again. So I'm just going to leave it over here, because you can see there my storage heater. I'm just going to kind of leave it in this kind of warmer part. There's a glass of water. That's going to sit there basically until it's kind of filled this, until it's risen, until it's come up above the level of the tin. And you're first proving it doesn't really matter how long you leave it. You can over prove it and it doesn't matter because you're going to knock it back, but you don't want, you've got to time this a bit better now. If you over prove it, it'll be really tall, it'll be really big, it will kind of be really high, and if that happens, if you knock it, or as soon as you put it into the oven, it might collapse and then the bread's no good. If you underprove it, like if I was to just stick this in the oven now, it would be a brick, so that would be no good either. So you kind of have to just you want to get it, the way I like my bread is nice and light and got holes in it, so I want it as high as possible, kind of get it to that point where it's risen really nicely, but just before the point that it's about to collapse in itself, then you put it in the oven. So the timing of this is quite important, but it's not really how long it takes, it's kind of how the relative size, you want it to get it to be nice and big, but not too big. But we'll see, we'll check the time when we come back. Just kind of lift that up. Cool. So we'll check the time. Alright, so it's been a few hours. What's that? 3-4 hours. It only took that long to rise to this point because it was so cold, but the time doesn't matter. If it was all done on the same day and it was a warm day and the dough was warm, we would have got to this point within a couple of hours. Instead, because the dough was so cold, we're at this point in double that time. So it's risen, so it was kind of halfway up the container, but now we're doubled in height, and it's also puffed out the way as well because of this rubber. If this was a metal, it would probably be a bit higher, but it's puffed out the way as well because of this rubber. So you can slash it, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to put a wee bit of dust a wee bit of flour on top, and I've just turned the oven on to about 220ish. I just turned it on a few minutes ago. I'm going to put some water into a tray, so that's kind of warmish water. And what that'll do is it'll put it'll add a bit of steam to the cooking process, to the oven. It's cooking. So you just want to be very careful with it, just gentle. Don't slam it. Just gently close the door. So we'll see how that goes, and probably will take. I've got it at 220 odds. I will probably cook that for about 15 minutes ish, and then I'll probably turn it down to about 160 once there's some colour on it. So I've turned it down halfway through. Probably take about half an hour-ish, but we will check the time. Alright, can't actually remember the time I put it in, but I think it was 11 something, so we're just over half an hour. So I've turned it down, I've turned it about halfway through the cooking. I turned it down to about 160ish. Let's have a look. Just give it a second to for the steam to go away. Yeah, I don't think we'll call that good. It's quite blonde, but so it's quite light, but that's okay. So it's going to be quite a blonde kind of loaf of bread. I can kind of see down the side it's quite light in colour, but that's okay. If you put sugar in it, it'll go darker, but that's good. So I'm just going to leave it for a couple of minutes in there, and then just lift it out. And because of this rubber thing, it's very easy to lift that out. So just leave it a couple of minutes, put it onto the rack, and that'll be done. As tempting as it would be to cut into that now, you don't want to do that, because it'll kind of, the reason is if you cut into it now, because there's so much moisture in it, it'll sort of clump and it'll go back to being doughy lumps. So you don't want to cut it just yet. Just let it leave it to cool. Leave it to cool right down, and I'll come back when it is cut, and you can see the crust and you can see the crumb. Alright, so it's been about an hour or so. Still a wee bit warm, but quite keen to try it. It's quite soft now, which is good. It's pretty good. So that's you there. Nice and evenly cooked through. You'll get more of a crust if you put sugar in it, but I quite like that softness. So that will that'll cool down nicely. That looks really good, nice and evenly cooked, and that will you know, that'll work nicely for anything, for sandwiches, for toast. And what I would do with that, once that's cooled right down, I'll put that in a bag and put it in the fridge. Everybody will tell you don't store bread in the fridge, but I always store bread in the fridge, and it'll last for quite a few days. Obviously, it's not as good the more days it goes, but it doesn't go off. It will last a good kind of week in the fridge. You know, it's not great at the end of the week, but it's not mouldy or anything. If you leave that out in a few days, that'll go mouldy. And I like that kind of blonde, that light colour. I quite like that. So yeah, so that's just showing you making the bread in kind of 2 stages, and you can do it overnight to split it between 2 days. If you haven't got time in one day, you can split it like that. So yes, that's done.